Hey sugar dumplings, thank you so much for joining me on my channel for this video about Glamour Magick, as you can see by the title. I actually was going to put this video in my Self-Love September series and talk about Glamour Magick as it relates to self-love. But what I realised is that I've actually never touched on this subject before on the channel. There's actually so much magic and witchcraft stuff that I haven't touched on yet on the channel, and I really need to seek to remedy that. If I had all the hours in the world and all the free time in the world, I think I would just do videos forever and ever and just stop to sleep and pee and eat. Yeah, as it goes, there's a lot of things I actually haven't discussed on the channel yet, and I wanted to make this into a fuller, more well-rounded video. I have a lot of thoughts about Glamour Magick. I've got a lot of thoughts about that particular area of spellcraft. So I'm going to let myself go ahead and just ramble and try and give you guys the scoop on what I think of this particular form of magic, different ways that you can do it, the shadow side of it, that kind of thing. So get comfortable, grab a beverage. This is my first beverage of the day. It's my coffee. So I'm excited to get into this. Oh, that's lovely. Gorgeous. Glamour Magick is a form of magic that is all about the onlooker and how the onlooker perceives you. So it is about perception, and it's about taking people's perception of you, who you are, what you're capable of, what you know, etc., what you're doing with your life, that kind of thing, and turning it so that it works to your advantage. And the way that I see Glamour Magick is that it can be about enhancing something that is already in your repertoire of skills or is already true to who you are as a person. It can be about enhancement, it can be about amplification, or it can be something that is a lot more illusory, that is actually not that much directly connected to who you are, or may not even be at all connected to who you are or what you've got in your, arsenal of strengths or your list of characteristics. So you can definitely take it away from things that you already have in your existing character, and it can become sort of more illusory, something that really isn't that much connected to the truth of you, if you will. You could get really deep here straight away and say that if all archetypes are available to us within the primordial soup of the collective unconscious, to which we all have access, then nothing is really illusory in Glamour Magick. Whatever you put forward, whatever you use the spell to project to others and to convince others of, is a part of you on the basis that all of it's available to you and all of it could be a part of you. It's just that there are certain archetypes and certain characteristics that are more difficult for some people to get in touch with than others. And depending on how your personality is set up, there might be certain things that you want to use Glamour Magick for to bring those personality traits forward, or to project that particular thing that maybe you don't project through your lived experiences or the way you are naturally, so you might use spellcraft to accentuate it. But essentially nothing is a lie in Glamour Magick. This is why I knew I couldn't just make this video about Glamour Magick and self-love, because I know I'm going to go into so many rabbit holes, it's going to be ridiculous. And I know I'm going to ramble on about it on Patreon afterwards as well. It's a big one for me. This is a big discussion. I first learned about Glamour Magick and became interested in Glamour Magick in the same way that a lot of people in my generation who are witches got into it, which was via the craft. Okay? Has anyone seen that Craft reboot, by the way? If Pharaoh's Bulk doesn't turn up at the end of that, I'm not going to be happy. Kellyanne, try and keep it on topic. There's a really famous scene in the Craft where Sarah is performing a Glamour Magick spell and she basically changes the colour of her eyes, and then they want her to go bigger, and then she changes her hair colour, and then she shakes it out. And that was my introduction to Glamour Magick. Of course, I understood that I was not going to be able to change my hair colour. I knew that I wouldn't be able to completely defy the laws of science or anything like that. There's going to be at least one hardcore, 7-tier meme lord chaos magician who's going to come into my comments now and say, you can't change your hair colour with magic. Pathetic little girl. I actually don't want to change my hair colour with magic, okay? It's raven. I'm raven haired. The thing that is the very most interesting for me about Glamour Magick is the fact that it is the form of magic that non-witches come close to practicing most of all, I think. I think that I can see the building blocks of Glamour Magick and what it means and how it operates in everyday life a lot. And I've written some notes to explain what I mean by that, okay? So, it's very prevalent in self-help and wellness culture in terms of things that you can do to make yourself feel like what you want to project into the world or who you want to become, you know. So you could say that affirmations, the whole idea of using affirmations, saying I am this, I always this, I feel this way, I walk around in the world this way, you could say that that has a building block of glamour magic in it. You could also say that the whole discussion around glowing up and what it means to glow up, it has got a building block of glamour magic in it. It's basically changing your appearance and the way that you are. As soon as I started talking about glowing up, I got a vision of Sandy at the end of Grease. I actually really don't like that musical. I mean, I like the music in the musical, but I hate the message in the musical, the whole glow up thing. It's like where the weird one at the end of Breakfast Club comes out looking like some kind of cheerleader princess, and you're like, no, you did not need to glow up in that way. You were perfect as you were before. Why did you feel like you had to do that? It's such a misogynistic message, but essentially, yeah, glowing up, that has definitely got a seed of glamour magic in it, there's no doubt, because you are taking different reference points that you know other people will be encouraged to see you in a different way if you use those reference points. You are saying something to onlookers to make them think of you differently, treat you differently, to have a better kind of day in the world, to be able to walk around in the world and have people's perceptions mean that your life is easier, that you feel better about yourself, etc. So definitely that's got a seed of glamour magic in it as well, the whole glowing up conversation. There's so many dialogues and so many articles and so many videos about getting the job that you want, having a successful date, that include building blocks of glamour magic. Now, these things are not glamour magic because you're not actually performing a spell, but the seeds are there, the building blocks are there. And a lot of these things will explain to you quite a bit about what glamour magic actually is. It's about taking, like I said, those reference points that you know are going to alter people's perceptions. And then through altering people's perceptions, you are going to feel like you have an easier time in the world, or certain things happen for you that wouldn't have happened if the perception was different. Learning how to bluff in poker games could definitely be seen to have a seed of glamour magic in it for definite, because you are projecting forth this appearance that you do not have a good hand, and actually you have a good hand, but you're messing with people's perception to make them think something, to make them do certain things, which then will benefit you. So that's definitely glamour magic-y for absolutely sure. I've also written down here that when you look at how you walk into a room, your posture, the way you put your chest out and your shoulders back, if you want to project an energy of confidence, that has a seed of glamour magic in it for sure. I've got here how to make a criminal think you're on their side to extract a confession in a police interview. Sorry, I'm obsessed with true crime. I'm a true crime girl. So I watch a lot of interviews in these true crime documentaries, and have done for years, and thought, oh, that's kind of glamour magic-y. You know, what the criminal is doing there is glamour magic-y, or what the cop is doing. The good cop, bad cop thing could be considered to be like glamour magic in tandem, or the seeds of it anyway, because to me, I don't think a spell is really technically being done unless you know you're doing a spell, you know. That's what makes you witches in a sense, or what makes you know that you're witches is that you know that you're doing it and it's a conscious act. But I do think that on so many levels you can see the seeds of glamour magic. There's not that many steps between what these people are doing and the actual conscious act of performing a spell, you know, where you carve out sacred space, or don't if you don't want to, and you actually, you know, you put the components together and you call it a spell. I know that that's not happening, but essentially glamour magic on some level, in some form, or the energy of it at least, the essence of it, is taking place in all of these things in everyday reality. I've also written here that making a toddler believe that a difficult situation is a game could be considered to have a seed of glamour magic in it. I've read quite a few really beautiful and very moving accounts of, a father who is a refugee fleeing a war situation with a toddler, or certainly there's a really famous story about a father and his son in a concentration camp convincing the son that it's a game. I think there's a film about that as well that's based on a real thing, but I can't remember what it's called. Damn it, it's a really famous movie. Anyway, sorry, it all escapes me now. But essentially what I wrote down was making a toddler believe that a difficult situation is a game, such as a war situation. That has the seed of the essence of glamour magic in it. That kind of thing, where what you project outwards makes somebody feel a certain way. Now, obviously, it's different to pretending in the sense that you're really going to take on whatever it is that you want to put forth. it's going to be temporary. It's not going to be something that you continue to have as part of your repertoire indefinitely. But I think it's a bit different to pretending. But I do think a lot of the pretending and putting on the pretense of something is definitely got the seed of glamour magic in it. So if you wanted to understand more, what is glamour magic? What is that kind of spellcraft? What is it for? All of these examples, I think, really go some way towards explaining. I've written down here, making people think you're more cultured than you are, you're wealthier than you are, you're more desired, more self-assured, or more aware of your surroundings. Making people think you're more streetwise than you are, all of these things. I've noticed that some of the stuff, or quite a lot of the stuff that's written about glamour magic on the internet, is about making people find you more attractive. And so I wanted to give some other examples of things that you might want somebody, or you might want people, or one person in particular, to feel or think about you. Because it's not just about wanting to make people feel you're more attractive. That might be the aim of the game with your glamour magic, is just to put forth that particular energy that makes somebody feel like, ooh, yeah, that person is hot. But there's so much more to it than that. There's so many different things that you might want to use glamour magic to achieve in terms of altering and moulding other people's perceptions of you. I personally feel that glamour magic is a form of spellcraft that would be fairly easy for a lot of the witches that I know and that I hobnob with online, because there very much is just a big psychology element to it. And if you're already aware and conscious of the fact that the way that you stand, the way that you walk, the stuff that you say, the things that you wear make people feel a certain way or have certain ideas, or even tap into certain biases, then you're going to be somebody that could be pretty good at glamour magic. And I think, that conversation is something that wouldn't be alien to a lot of the witches that I know. And I think a lot of witches are very aware of these certain things within human psychology and are very interested in that kind of thing. So to me, I don't think it's there's not that many extra steps to be a very practiced glamour magic mage. As you're listening to me talking, you might be thinking, this sounds shadowy. Kellyanne, this sounds like the kind of thing that is really cheating, lying, and is very much hooked up with trying to manipulate. And there's definitely a big shadow to glamour magic as a concept and as a practice, for sure. I think that that's true of everything. I think you can look at the underbelly of most things and be like, oh, that's seedy, we don't want to go there. And so glamour magic is no exception. Glamour magic does not escape from having a shadow. And actually, I think glamour magic, when I think about the whole range of things that I could do in spellcraft, different things I could achieve, different ways I could look at my role as a witch and what I do in spellcraft, I think glamour magic has perhaps more of an obvious shadow. The shadow is closer to the surface, and you really do have to think about what you want to achieve, why you want to achieve it, and how you personally feel that it's going to be ethical and reasonable for you to achieve it. And look, at the end of the day, when it comes to this, witches are different. Witches do not all have the same ethical framework, nor should they be expected to have that. So you really have to look into it for yourself and decide what it is that you think and feel about it. When you look at certain scams that happen, the way that certain people are convinced to part with money, you could say that some of the steps that are taken on the way to making somebody believe a scam are quite glamour magic-y, and you could learn certain things from that. You can pick up certain things from that and put them into your glamour magic repertoire. You could say that advertising and branding utilizes a lot of the same things, the building blocks, the seeds of glamour magic. And you could say that there's certainly things that you can learn from advertising and branding, both in terms of the way that you feel that it's done unscrupulously or manipulatively, and in terms of the way that you've bought into it and it's worked on you. You could look at all of that and say, wow, there's some things for me to learn here if I want to do really good glamour magic. There is even, dare I even use the term on my channel, but there is even some traces of the glamour magic vibe in pickup artistry, which is grotesque. But if we are talking about right now the more grotesque face of glamour magic, then yeah, it's there as well. Some of the discussions that are being had in that repulsive symposium can be related to the shadow side of glamour. Just sort of circling around again to advertising and branding, I find that really interesting because it's almost like a two-part glamour magic experience. It's like the brand is going to utilize certain ideas that you can find in Glamour Magick. They're going to sow certain glamour seeds when they think about how they want to project the meaning and the value of the product or service to you. So that's step one of the Glamour Magick experience, is where the brand is like, okay, how do we get this person to buy this thing? How do we show them what this thing is worth through our clever tricks and our, you know, sparkly, glimmery things that we're going to do? And then you perform the second part of the Glamour Magick act, because you purchase the product or service based on what the brand tells you it's going to make you do or be or whatever. And then you wear the product or whatever to perform a Glamour Magick act yourself by using the product to convince others of who you are or what you are all about. And when I think about brands that I'm very invested into, like I really love my Dr. Martens. I feel different when I wear my Dr. Martens than to how I feel when I wear other forms of footwear. I also love my Converse All-Stars. Again, I feel different when I wear my Converse All-Stars. They're just very beautiful, especially the double platform Chuck Taylors. Lovely, fresh, mint, love it. And I also very much love Boy London. I love Boy London as a brand. I've got a lot of pieces of Boy London streetwear. And when I think about how I feel when I wear those brands, when I buy into that, that is a two-step Glamour Magick thing in a way, because they've performed the glamour on me to get me to feel different when I put on my Dr. Martens. It's like when you put these boots on as opposed to these boots, you're going to feel 10 feet tall. And then I have absorbed that ideal and that vibe, that energy. And then I feel differently when I'm around other people or when I'm in the street, when I interact. Do I understand that this is all partly sort of, it's glamoury in its execution, and it's glamoury in terms of how I use it and in terms of how it's been used on me? Absolutely. And I think that just makes me a better witchy practitioner, in a sense that I can look at these everyday normal things that we take for granted as just being normal things. Oh yeah, product, branding, marketing, advertising, you know, it's all around us. And I think we can see it as often a very negative thing, and there's certainly very negative aspects to it. Absolutely there is very negative aspects to it. But I can look at it, see it in a witchy context and think, oh, that's really interesting. I've had the glamour performed on me, then I perform the glamour on someone else. And I think it's only once you can identify these things as well that you can decondition from them. Because I think that the whole aspect of Glamour Magick, in terms of what's available to you in your toolkit as a witch, should be something that you understand. You can see how it happens all around you all the time. You can see how other people perform glamour and tap into that energy, and you actually tap into that energy as well. Brands and corporations tap into that energy. Celebrities tap into that energy. I think it's only once you can see that consciously around you and you start breaking down how it works and the effect it's had on you, or the effect that you've had on others by using it, that you can really become a very good glamour mage. You can really do it. You can access that part of the spellcraft toolkit really well, because you're observing all the time how it happens around you. It happens around you when it's not in a witchy context pretty constantly. And as I said before in this video, the main thing I find interesting about Glamour Magick, about that area of spellcraft, is that I do see it being used. I see the seeds of it. I see the weave of it in the tapestry of many different non-witchy things, including advertising and branding and all of the other things that I listed. There's so many ways. I think institutions do it. If you look at the way that schools advertise themselves, for example, and you know, create that desire that parents have to get their kids into a specific school. Look at the way sports groups do it, and theatre groups, or look at the way gangs even use glamour to project a certain ideal, to make you feel a certain way. It's fascinating. I'm actually getting like giddy because it's just so interesting, and it's something that witches can learn just by walking around in the world and being like, oh, that's something. I can pay attention to that because I might need that later for a spell. A lot of the times when you do a Glamour Magick spell, you're only going to want to do it as a one-time thing. It's a one-time glamour that you're going to sort of put over yourself, and it's going to affect the way that you're perceived in a situation, and therefore it's going to affect the way a situation is going to go for you. And then you're going to put it away. You're not going to do it again. But there are going to be some aspects of glamour that you're going to want to apply to yourself over and over again. And I can think of a non-witchy way to explain this. I have some perfumes that I like to wear. I have a couple of perfumes in particular that are sort of like my daily go-to perfumes. I get compliments on those perfumes a lot. I get compliments all the time. And I can tell that when people compliment me on these perfumes, they're feeling a certain thing and tapping into a certain thing. and that's connected to me. Then that creates a thread that connects that scent to me. By the way, in case you're wondering, both of these are hardcore patchouli based, and yes, patchouli is a big thing for me when it comes to the way that I want to smell. There's other things involved in these perfumes as well. They're very lovely and delicately put together, but the patchouli is always the base. That's like, oh yes, it's a patchouli scent. Sorry about the jump cut and the change of location and the change of outfit, but I had to answer the phone yesterday while I was filming the video, so I'm going to finish the rest of the video today. And I only had a few little things that I wanted to say for the rest of the video. First of all, I definitely wanted to say that obviously with Glamour Magick, it's a lot to do with sort of building your self-esteem. It's a lot to do with confidence. It can lower your inhibitions. If you do a glamour spell, then you might feel much more comfortable being in, you know, a really busy social situation, for example, or you might feel more comfortable in a specific situation or carrying out a specific activity that usually fills you with angst or makes you feel unsure or insecure. Obviously, doing a Glamour Magick working will up your chances of being able to do that with confidence and to feel better about what you're doing or about how you are projecting yourself out in the world. And for that reason, I think it could be seen as a way to bypass your anxieties or to deal with things like body dysmorphia, for example, or gender dysphoria, social anxiety, other kinds of mental health issues. And that's definitely not untrue, but to me, I feel like any form of spellcraft that you would utilize to help yourself and heal yourself and enable you to be stronger despite your challenges should be a useful measure in the context of a much bigger bunch of tools. So I think whenever we just start to use spellcraft as the only tool at our disposal, we're probably going to be missing quite a lot of essential ingredients there. That is just my opinion. That is my position on things. And I think also that it's possible to use glamour workings as little temporary fix-its that don't really deal with underlying patterns of behaviour or issues that might need to be dragged out into the light and sorted through. And again, that's very much that's a very Kellyanne Maddox approved position on magic, is that, you know, it can't be used as a one-stop shop for all your problems. It's not going to take the place of deep shadow work or you know, deep healing work and stuff like that, but it certainly can be a useful measure. It certainly can be a very powerful tool in the kit. So I think if you do feel fairly anxious when you're going into social situations, for example, you might want to use a Glamour Magick spell to give onlookers the impression that you are confident and you have lowered anxiety, and then also you will feel then that you're walking in with that confidence and maybe that lowered anxiety. I think it's very possible that somebody dealing with gender dysphoria might use a glamour working as a witch to more closely align with the gender presentation that they want to put out into the world. So these kinds of things are what I mean, where it's not, you know, it wouldn't be necessarily a wholly negative thing to use Glamour Magick, but I don't think you'd want to get stuck on a little carousel of just utilising something like the Glamour Magick philosophy to deal with ongoing issues that might need a sort of more wider range of tools to help you deal with them. Earlier in this video, I was talking about lots of non-witchy ways in which you see the theory of Glamour Magick playing out in, you know, non-magical context. So you see the theory of Glamour Magick play itself out in the mundane world quite a lot. And I was just trying to think to myself of another example of something really difficult that you might be going through, a challenge that you might be experiencing that you might use Glamour Magick for. And I actually thought about a non-witchy example, and it was the revenge dress. So I was thinking, how might you use Glamour Magick if you were going to see your ex-partner for the first time and you knew it was going to be really difficult and it was going to be really dicey for you emotionally? How might you utilise Glamour Magick to kind of make yourself feel like, I can do this, I'm ready, I can be in the same room as this person, it's going to be okay? And then immediately my mind switched to the image of Princess Diana turning up in that black dress. I can't remember if it was Gucci or Versace or what it was, but they called it the revenge dress because it was the first time that Princess Diana was seen at a public engagement after her official separation from Prince Charles. And ever since then, there's been kind of like a little bit of a line of celebrity, quote unquote, revenge dresses. And basically it just means like turn up looking absolutely grade A, top shelf, chef's kiss in front of your ex, or knowing that your ex is going to see you in the papers the next day or whatever. And I'm sure that for a lot of people this is not interesting, but for me, being interested in style and in the history of fashion and clothing and stuff like that, I think that's also a very interesting way in which you would see glamour magic play out in the Muggle realm. You know, that idea that a revenge dress could be a way for you to bolster yourself, to be in a situation where you do feel very unsure and uncertain, but the dress makes you feel like you are steadfast and your roots are going to the very core of your haute couture world. I don't think you say haute couture, do you? Is it haute couture? I don't know. Could somebody French or French Canadian or some kind of French speaking help me out down below, would you? I'm terrible. Here's a list of a few good ways that you can bring glamour magic into your witchy practice. First of all, create a playlist which is geared around helping you to feel a certain thing or project a certain thing, or sort of really be able to emulate and put forth a certain characteristic, a certain energy. I think that a lot of people do this. This is, again, a way in which lots of non-witches are practicing the glamour philosophy, basically. Being able to stick a playlist on and then feeling like you can clean your whole house, or you can, you know, lift heavier weights at the gym, or you can step into a situation that you find challenging and it becomes easier because you're listening to, you know, your favourite rock band, or you're listening to a bunch of sexy tunes, you know, whatever it might be that you need to encapsulate and put forward. Music is incredible for glamour. If you want to practice glamour magic, music wouldn't be a very bad place to start. Enchant your products, perfumes, jewelry, clothing, all that kind of thing. I actually think, as I said earlier in this video, that perfume is a very good non-witchy glamour tool. So it's a way in which you can see yourself practicing the art of glamour without necessarily casting a spell per se, but I think perfume very much does cast a spell, and it makes people feel certain things about you. I think certain smells have certain associations. Undoubtedly, we are, again, picking up those reference points from society and from what we know about society, and they're like a constellation, and you kind of select what it is that you want. I remember when I used to wear a lot of lavender based perfumes, for example, I didn't get many compliments on them usually from men. It would usually be from women, and a lot of the time women of an older generation, because there was that different association. It wasn't necessarily considered to be an alluring or sexy kind of perfume. It was more considered to be like a very, I don't know, a dainty, sort of feminine, very sort of gardeny type of scent. So it got a different kind of attention to when I wear certain patchouli based perfumes, where straight men are more likely to say, I fucking love that scent, that's gorgeous. It's just an observation, but it sort of explains what I'm trying to say about reference points. So when you select certain things, certain pieces of clothing, certain jewelry, or you put on certain perfume, you're maybe already accessing certain reference points, but then also enchant those things, you know, put a spell on your perfume, put a glamour spell on your perfume, decide that you're consecrating that perfume or that jewelry or that necklace so that when you wear it, you project a specific thing and you are the essence of that specific thing. And you can have different perfumes or products or jewelry or whatever for different things. So when you put on a specific necklace, that is so that you can feel like you're in your warrior archetype and you're projecting that into the world, and other people are picking the fuck up on that and they are really interacting with that. You can have a warrior necklace, you can have a princess pair of shoes, you can have whatever your little heart desires. If you find that instant glamour is needed partway through a situation and you have not actually done a glamour spell, but halfway through you feel like you need to really just start emanating a specific energy or a specific characteristic, you can have a gesture that is like a very quick switcheroo, and it will only be you that knows what the gesture is, but you will do it, and then that will be your way to lock into and activate that specific characteristic that you want to bring forward. You can totally invent sort of postures, poses that you can do, or gestures, hand gestures, mudras, so that you bring in that specific characteristic, you switch it on at a specific time. In fact, you know what, just excuse yourself, go to the loo, lock the door, close your eyes and do a click, and then open your eyes as though a light switch has come on, and that can literally be as easy as the switcheroo gesture is. It's like 1 minute the characteristic isn't there, you're bereft of it, you need it, you feel weakened by the lack of it, and then suddenly, oh, switcheroo, there it is. Some people will feel like they're not able to do that, and that there needs to be a few more steps before they feel like they've really sort of stepped into the full glamour. But to me, even if something like that works to a small extent, it's better than not doing anything and not getting any change whatsoever. One good way to practice glamour magic is to think about a specific food as being enchanted or as being the way in to the glamour that you want to achieve for a specific time period. You might decide that whenever you eat French fancies, for example, you take on a kind of Marie Antoinette vibe. Marie Antoinette before everybody stormed the palace, obviously, not afterwards. So you might decide to like eat a French fancy before a party because you've already decided as a witch that in your practice, French fancies represent that specific energy, and when you eat one, you activate that energy for at least 4 hours or something like that. There's a lot of talk about mood boards and vision boards in wellness and magic, and I think that's for very good reason. I think they can be incredible tools. Do not be afraid to create a glamour board, you know? Think about the characteristics, the energy, the archetype that you are going to be embodying and that you want people to witness in you and interact with in you, and then create your glamour board. You do not have to make a board like this that is literally a physical board. If that's not your bag, or if you don't have the resources for that or the room for that, you can just simply go on Pinterest and create a private glamour board, and you can have as many of them as you would like to have, collecting visual references together to help you to step into that glamour. And again, this can definitely be part of an overall spell where you carve out sacred space and you call in the various energies or powers that you want to work with, and then you go through the glamour board, or maybe even make it while you're in sacred space. But I think it can also just be a little top up of glamour, you know, while you just need in the moment to feel like you've got more of it or you've activated it. Go through that Pinterest board or have a specific image on your phone, even as the screensaver on your phone, that just tops up that glamour that you want to project forward into the world. There are a lot of people that advise that you sleep on it if you have a problem, or if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling challenged. And I like to believe that I can have a glamour nap. I think that some naps allow me to wake up with access to the glamour that I felt that I wasn't really accessing before. So sometimes before I go out, I just let myself have a nap, and I decide, you know what, this is an enchanted nap. And yes, sometimes I do carve sacred space around my bed or my couch while I nap. And then I decide this is the enchanted nap. When I wake up on the other side of this nap, I will be with glamour. It's like being with child, but in my opinion, more fun. You might want to have sort of like an archetype anchor that you see before you leave the home or before you see a certain person, like maybe a photograph of an iconic film star or rock star that really sort of taps into the archetype and the energy that you want to put forth when you're in a specific situation. And just meditate on that archetype. Just keep your eyes open and meditate on that icon or that image, and really feel like, yeah, I'm ingesting it, I'm bringing it into myself as I'm connecting with it and as I'm locking into it. Actually, that last one is the reason that I have a picture of Freddie Mercury on my wall in the hallway before I leave the home. Freddie is the last thing that I see. And also I have a picture of Freddie Mercury in my Filofax. So every working day I open up my Filofax and there he is. I don't know, I just feel like he had an energy that I very much would like to emulate, tap into, and in essence just remind myself of. Darlings, thank you so much for listening to my thoughts and feelings on the art of glamour in witchcraft. Over on my Patreon, I do have a video series called Afterthoughts. And in the Afterthoughts series, I sometimes just basically offer more in-depth thoughts, more deep dives, and more personal insights about my practice and what I've tried and what's worked for me. And I will definitely be delving into this topic of glamour magic more over on my Patreon. I want to talk about the ethics of glamour magic. I want to talk about the artifice of glamour magic and the shadow side of glamour magic, my own experiences, and what I think about just the wider vibe of glamour in witchcraft. So if you would like to be part of my Patreon group and have access to the Afterthoughts series, and also have access to my incredible Discord where we get together to talk about all things witchy, psychology, wellness, books, and just, you know, shooting the shit in general, please click down below, go over to my Patreon, check out the tiers, come over and see what else I've got to say about glamour magic over on my Patreon. Come to the Discord, have a good time, and until next time, so much love, darlings, and blessed be. Mwah.